Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. Our mission at City Current is to power the good, and we do that through positive media, events, and philanthropy. This show features interviews with a mix of business and community leaders who discuss important efforts, trends, lessons learned, and ways to get involved so we can learn more about our community and work together to make a difference. Now, on to the show. And we love having our City Current guest speakers come on the show, talking about their books, talking about what's going on now in their world. And that's why we're so honored to have with us our good friend, Sterling Hawkins. His book is Hunting Discomfort, How to Get Breakthrough Results in Life and Business, No Matter What. And so, Sterling, how are you doing, buddy?
Jeremy, I'm doing well. Been busy lately, but great to see you. It's been a while. Too long, really.
Well, you have spoken in Memphis and Nashville. And for those who can see you on the screen, you've got the hashtag no matter what. And you always find a way, but you also find adventure. And so we'll talk about all of that, especially what you're up to lately. But let's start with a little bit of your background. For you as a guest speaker, as I mentioned, Memphis and Nashville is a part of our signature speaker series. Give us a little bit of your background and tie that into your speaking platform. Let's start there, and then we'll dive into the book.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I grew up a fifth generation grocer in my family's grocery store. And right out of college, started a company and got involved in the retail startup world and startup world in general. And things were going really great for a while. I was like, oh, all this business stuff is easy and growth is simple. And it's just a matter of time until I buy an island and a private jet. I was super humble in those days, obviously. And through a couple of catastrophic business failures, it really humbled me to start looking at what does growth actually look like for the individual and then by association, the business. And I started to find that you can't just do growth. You can't just do innovation. It actually requires some inquiry into where the places are that are lacking. And that process is uncomfortable, hence the name of the book, Hunting Discomfort, right? We got to go through that discomfort and we've got to commit to going through it no matter what. And it started out just as something for myself, right? This process of, well, how do I grow? How do I get back onto my feet? And it turns out that the medicine I needed is something that works for everybody. And so I started out sharing it with a few friends and then a few other business partners. And it's really turned into a platform where, I speak to thousands of people every year, work with companies to not just face their discomfort, but to orient to what growth actually looks like and to build cultures for growth. And well, that's where we are today.
And I think there is a definite mindset shift from like avoiding discomfort, right? Because we all want it. We're all, comfort creatures. We like our comfort. We like to be, in a comfortable environment, stable, stability, all that, predictable. Yeah. But to go hunt discomfort with the idea of growth in mind. And I think the mindset shift is a very important one, which you dive into the book. And so talk about the book, give us a little bit of a teaser on, some of the major takeaways from the book, and then we can talk all about the good stuff you're doing now.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that it's not just hard work and it's not information that matters. What matters is really embodying some of those things and growing from some of the things that we're taking in. And it's really easy to live with discomfort, which is where I find most people and most businesses today, right? Like, I don't necessarily have to have that hard conversation. I can maybe put it off until tomorrow. And because of the benefits of modernity, there's no threat to my life in that. It just means that I'm consistently uncomfortable in at least small ways over time. Now, what I would advocate is to step out of the comfort zone, which is all too easy to find, and get to the essence of that hard conversation. Do the hard thing. Reflect on the ways that maybe you need to grow deep down, but have been avoiding or denying or surviving just to get by. It's easy to operate on the superficial level of best practices and checking the box and doing things, quote unquote, the right way. But I think sometimes that leaves us disconnected from what really makes a difference for us. And by diving into that discomfort, confronting maybe the hard truths, having the hard conversations is what ultimately makes a difference. And the best part about it, why we should hunt it, is that we get better at it over time. And we start living, somewhat ironically, more free, more fulfilling, more comfortable lives. And by the way, we've got all the business results as well.
How has this book become a little bit of your operating system now with the
Yeah.
way you view your business and life and speaking? And so, in other words, how are you applying this book into your
Yeah.
own life, in terms of what you're doing every day?
You know what's really funny, Jeremy, is I'm kind of the discomfort guy. A good friend of mine calls me Dr. Discomfort. And talking about things like fear and anger and grief and anxiety, sometimes I can see the worry on people's faces when I'm taking the stage or something because it's uncomfortable. But I think it's actually harder for me because I've got friends and family and business partners who are like, oh, well, you're the discomfort guy. You should do it. So, like, my sister wanted to go skydiving several years ago, and it's like, not really my thing. Don't love heights. Don't really want to jump out of a perfectly good plane at 15,000 feet. She's like, well, Sterling, hut discomfort, go do it. And then there I am jumping out of a plane, and somebody else invited me to a dance class, and that went epically embarrassing for me, but was uncomfortable. And I've even got family members that are like, Sterling, well, you should apologize first for this thing because you're the one that wants to hunt discomfort. So it's become a part of my life, and a lot of these things really are uncomfortable. But the magic in it, for me and for all of us, is that the more we meet discomfort anywhere, translates into our capacity to deal with it everywhere. And as we look at a world that still has COVID fallout and supply chain disruption and global instability and staffing shortages and economic uncertainty and political uncertainty, we need that capacity to move through that discomfort, not be stopped by it, but to really use the unknown and the uncomfortable to be able to grow.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think just like weightlifting, it's the resistance, right? It's the resistance that
Right.
builds the muscle. And so exactly like you're talking about is going through the process makes you stronger and makes you able to deal with it at a much greater level as more and more challenges and opportunities come your way. And so share how, well, let's do this. Talk about where individuals can buy the book. So where can we get the book Hunting Discomfort? Let's go there and then we'll talk about next how this is shaping your future.
Yeah, thank you. Huntingdiscomfort.com. It's also available anywhere books are sold, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, everywhere else.
So how is this book when you look at, obviously it's a big part of your platform, your speaking platform as well, but it is continuing to evolve. And so when you look at you hunting discomfort, just like we're talking about and becoming, a part of who you are and your DNA and the way you approach day to day,
Yeah.
where is this leading you now in terms of things like alignment and, kind of where your mind is headed for the next challenges, the next discomfort to help individuals and businesses with?
Yeah. Well, it started out around this build your discomfort muscle, but as I'm looking at it, it's actually much deeper than that. And we're getting at, I think, the essence of what it takes for humans to grow. And just a little bit of background that no matter what system and this idea of going after the unknown and the uncomfortable was actually in part inspired by the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's work. I think, was it the 1960s or so, somewhere in there? Where he looked at all these different origin stories from all around the world, and he found this similarity amongst all of them. He called it the monomyth, or it's also known as the hero's journey, the spaces that humans are required to go through in order to grow. And so we've got this system that we've developed, like I said, in part inspired by that and research and my own experience and all these other things. But at the core of that, it is not just our capacity to deal with increasing levels of discomfort. I think what it does is actually builds a deep belief or even a trust within ourselves. And that's really where I'm headed next. I think there's three different kinds of trust as I've been learning and researching, kind of experimenting on myself and talking with folks. And the first is blind trust. Something that a child would have, not knowing any different. So they just trust with abandon. And there's something beautiful about that. But we all know that things go south sometimes, and the people we trusted sometimes betray us. We might even betray ourselves. And we end up with kind of this resignation to trust. And we tell ourselves things like, well, I'm not going to do that again. Never, never again. I'm not going to trust this person. I'm not going to do this thing. I'm going to close out this part of myself. And that is safe. It will protect us over time, but it also keeps us stuck where we're unable to grow. And growth, I think, is a necessity as the world increasingly changes beyond us. What's required is to really open ourselves, this third kind of trust, open ourselves, not trusting things that we know that we shouldn't trust. This is not blind trust. This is not naive trust, but this is trusting in a way where you can get hurt. Things could go south, but you've cultivated this belief in ourselves that no matter what happens, we'll be able to figure it out. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it ties to purpose and meaning and impact and confidence and understanding who you are, what you're fighting for.
Yeah.
It then allows you to trust because you know at a deeper level what you're fighting for. And I think that deep sense of purpose allows you to then take action on things where you can't fully trust, but you trust that your heart's in the right place and ultimately things will head in the right direction, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we all have this really accurate and deep intuition inside of ourselves, and that's important. And to be able to orient around us, as you're pointing out, we need to align to what's ultimately important. And don't get me wrong, the expansion's important, the money's important, the sales are important, clients are important, but research shows that what's ultimately important to human beings are the things that no matter what happens, we still have access to them. It's things like love, joy, peace, gratitude. And as we can align ourselves, physiologically align the head, heart, gut, and hands to those things that are ultimately important, then we start behaving in ways that will produce the results that we want. Not just the money and the business growth, but really the human fulfillment as well, which to me is the critical part of the whole thing. I want to look back on my life and think like this was a life worth living. And that's a fulfillment component. I think more and more people are starting to connect to that of, I have maybe been persuaded by physical things or gotten lost in the chaos of the world, but I know that there's something in me that's important, and I want to act in ways that are in alignment like that. Just with like what you were sharing a little while ago with how you're spending your time during the spring break.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about fulfillment, it's asking the deeper questions, right? And I know that for you, that's an important piece of this is it's not just getting answers, it's asking the right questions and continuing to probe deeper because the answer is only as good as the question you ask, right? And so talk
Turns
about
out.
the importance of questions.
Yeah, well, breakthroughs happen from a process of inquiry, not from a place of certainty. If you already have all the answers, there's no room for new ideas, new perspectives, new approaches. You essentially sentence yourself to fixing and rehashing and retooling and reshaping what you've already done. As we can find less judgment and more discovery, or we can let go of certainty and find more inquiry, we're able to grow. Sometimes it's the knowledge that we have within us that is totally valid, but when we attach ourselves to it and attach our identity to it, it only serves to hold us back. So there's a component of humility, of knowing less and questioning more that I think is a fundamental for growth for all of us.
When you look at growth on your end, give me a couple of things that you're excited about for the future. When you look at, the rest of 2024, building for 2025, what are some
Yeah.
things that put a smile on your face?
Yeah. Well, what's been really special, Jeremy, is some of the deeper work that we're doing with companies to align them to what's ultimately important. building these blueprints that are not a marketing facade. It's not something they're hiring an agency to do, but a truly courageous act by the leadership team to say, let's set aside some of this discomfort, some of this like business force field almost of things that maybe we've held to be true but aren't. And let's align ourselves as an organization to what's ultimately true. I mean, that's been incredibly fulfilling work to me, and we've got more of it coming up. We do have a big repositioning, rebrand coming in a couple of months. And I can't remember if I shared this with you when we talked before, but I am finally locked in to go to Kilimanjaro, and we're going to climb Kilimanjaro this July with a group.
Well, I have no doubt that you will reach the summit no matter what. And so, wrapping in with where everyone can go to buy the book, Hunting Discomfort, and follow you in your efforts, obviously for speaking and just, all the good content that you continue to put out. Where do we go?
Thank you for that. SterlingHawkins.com has everything. You can find the book there, find out about our work, and the most fun, at least I think, is you can connect with the No Matter What community and see what everybody's up to all over the world.
Sterling Hawkins, thank you for all you do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the cityCURRENT show, where we bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making an impact, empowering the good in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and joining us is Alessia Citro, a dynamic entrepreneur and author whose journey from tech giants to a habits and high-performance coach is a testament to the transformative power of intentional living and aligning with one's higher self. So join us as we delve into the world of habits, personal growth, and the unique insights Alessia brings to the table. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. I'm so happy to be here.
Of course. So let's start it off with what inspired you to really dive into the world of habits and personal development?
The short answer is that it's because I needed it. I don't know how many of you, or even you, Andrew, can relate to this, but so often we get in these boom and bust cycles where things are going really, really great. We're grinding, going real hard, and then we get burnt out. And I was tired of living in that constant ebb and flow, and I wanted to get on an even keel so that I could have harmony throughout my life. And it was really habits that led me to that.
I love that because I can relate, and there seems to be seasons that come and go when it comes to being burnout or feeling overwhelmed. And I'm really excited to dive into habit forming and the importance of habits as well, because they are so paramount to being successful. So give us a sneak peek into the higher self habits method that you practice and preach, and how it can benefit individuals seeking lasting change.
This was actually the framework I used to transform my life and create a number of healthy habits, as well as stop a number of unhealthy ones, not the least of which was that I no longer drink alcohol. And while I didn't have a name for it at the time, this was the method that I used to get me to a point of just being in a much happier, healthier state. So there's 5 stages to it. The first stage is awareness. If we're not aware of a problem, there's no way to fix it. So I take the reader or those in my programs through a series of exercises that they can do to really become aware of what is holding them back and what are those invisible barriers that they keep bumping up against. Something that both my clients and I frequently say is that we seem to not be able to get out of our own way. So once you know what is in your way, you can overcome it. Then the second stage is alignment. The approach that I take to habits is a lot different than many of the other books that are out there, as well as programs, because I view it holistically. So much of the time we only look at the behavioral component, but I believe that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, not physical beings having a spiritual one, right? And so we've got to look holistically on a soul level, on a very deep level. What is it that you are meant to be doing? Who is it that you are meant to be? And in your mind's eye, aligning to that higher version of you. That's the name of the book and the method, Higher Self Habits, right? So once we align, then we get into what might surprise you is my favorite stage called audit. Now, I know a lot of people hear the word audit and they think of the IRS. I am not trying to make you think of that. It's a lot more fun, I promise. And here's where we really get into the meat of it. So I wish I could have a visual for you as you listen to this, but use your imagination if you can. Imagine a pyramid that has multiple layers on it, the bottom of which are your basic survival needs. And if any of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you'll know what I'm referring to. So at the bottom, you have the basic needs, right? Like, what is keeping you physically alive? Above that, safety, stability, security. Above that, love, belonging, connection. Above that, self-esteem needs. And then finally at the top, self-actualization. There are a number of other things that lay over this, like the areas of the brain that you're operating from. Are you operating from your base reptilian layer of your brain? And it's called that because that's literally all reptiles have. Are you operating more from an emotional center, which is what all mammals have? Or are you operating out of your neocortex? That is what differentiates human beings from every other species on the planet, right? So when we look at where our needs are not met, for instance, if you're not drinking enough water, if you're not eating the proper nutrition, if you're not getting enough sleep, you might be operating from your reptile brain. And when I say that, you're probably like, I don't want to be a reptile. I want to be the fully endowed human being that I was made to be, right? So by shoring up the bottom of that pyramid and working on those habits first, you know where you need to start. Then I teach you in stage 4 how to make it really tiny so it's easy. And then we get those on lock on automatic so you don't have to be thinking about them. Those deficits are filled. And then you can focus on the more fun things like self-actualization, right? So then we move into stage 4, which is activation. So I teach you behavioral design. It is so much easier than people think. And we can go deeper on that if you want to. How to make it tiny, how to make habits stick. And then finally, you enter stage 5, which is ascend and amplify. This is when you begin the upward spiral. We're not downward spiraling anymore. You become this better version of yourself. You become aware of new levels of growth and it starts over again. And, the thing with personal development is it never stops. There's no finish line. So you continue this work and unlocking new levels as long as you're here.
And so as a certified life coach, what are some of the common challenges that you see individuals facing when it comes to that personal development?
So much of the time, there are so many things that we want to do and so many things we might be interested in. I tend to work with a lot of people who have ADHD, which I have it too. And we get like the shiny penny, squirrel type of distractions on the regular. And we tend to be very multi-passionate. I think the key is if you feel as though you are consistently playing whack-a-mole. You remember that arcade game, Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah. I like to play that in the arcade. I don't like to play it in my life. And it took a lot of false starts and painful lessons to finally figure out that I don't have to keep playing it. So really shoring up, like, what are the things that you need to deal with? And what are the things critically that will boost your confidence to make you feel capable of stepping into these better versions of you? So for instance, how did you feel after you changed that light bulb? You felt really good that you handled that, didn't you? Even though that was such a minor thing that you put it off because it seemed stupidly insignificant.
Yes. I'm like, why am I wanting to design my own certificate of achievement?
Yes. And actually, I love that you brought that up. That is a key component to all of this. After you do one of these seemingly insignificant tasks you've been putting off, celebrate that. It's very, very satisfying. It wires it into your brain by accessing that reward center, giving you the dopamine hit, and it's going to make you more likely to do it. So what are the things that are little that you keep putting off as you chase the quote unquote big things? Because shocker, the little things are actually the big things and will help you create that snowball effect as it rolls down the mountain, allowing you to do a whole lot more. So for instance, like one of the things that I've had a client tell me has changed her life. This is like, it sounds funny when I say it because it sounds ridiculous. Running her dishwasher at night and unloading it first thing in the morning has changed her life because she no longer goes in the kitchen, sees a pile of clutter in the sink that cues to her that she can't do the little things. It's like these little tiny wins and celebrating them, it expands your capacity so much. So find something that you've been putting off that will only take you a couple minutes to do or less. Do that thing, celebrate it, and watch your confidence begin to expand in a way that's going to seem ridiculous. Like you'll be shocked how much these tiny little things actually move the needle.
Tell us where you can order your book and then talk about how they can hire you as a coach.
Yeah, well, I would love to connect with anyone who has heard something today that resonated. If you would like to pre-order the book, hopefully it will be coming out very, very soon when you're listening to this. And you can do that at alessiacitro.com. That's ALESSIACITRO.com/book. And I also have a free gift for anyone listening. So you can use the same address, alessiacitro.com/gift. I've got a guided visualization to meet your higher self, as well as a habits guide that you can download there. And then as far as working with me, all the details are on my website too. I have group programs. I do one-on-one coaching as well. So whatever you're looking for, I probably have something for you.
Well, Alessia Citro, we could talk to you all day about forming habits and developing our purpose and really striving to that. You are an incredible entrepreneur and helping so many people. I can't wait to read your book and am going to listen to your podcast right after this. So Alessia Citro, thank you so much for coming on the show, empowering the good in our community and around the globe.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for watching the City Current Show. To learn more about each of the guests, to share your stories of others, leading by example, or to watch past episodes and more media focused on good news, visit our website at citycurrent.com or follow along on social media using the handle or hashtag citycurrent. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and thank you for all you do to power the good.